We're going to be looking at the Brexit negotiations and what kind of deal Boris Johnson is going to be able to pull off. And we're going to look at three different scenarios. Him coming back with a hero deal, him coming back with an indifferent deal, and him walking away from the negotiations. And let's make no mistake, all three of those scenarios are currently possible. So at the moment we think that Boris Johnson is staring down the barrel of a potential Brexit deal. I think people close to the action are saying there's a 50-50 chance of securing an agreement. And this poses risks politically to Boris Johnson. On one hand, of course, he wants to be able to bring back a deal that the Brexiteers, particularly in his party, but generally that Tory MPs can support. And that means it needs to be a deal that shows that Brussels has capitulated on some of the UK's demands. Boris Johnson was elected on a Conservative manifesto pledge promising to not only get Brexit done, but get a Brexit which means Brexit, a Brexit that means returning full sovereignty to the UK. He himself said, people do not want Britain to end up being a colony of the EU, and that means a clean break. So if Boris Johnson is able to deliver effectively a good Brexit deal that is warmly received by his own party and indeed the public, then he has the potential, frankly, to rescue what has been quite a patchy first 12 months of his administration. He could return from Brussels a hero, sort of Churchillian, Thatcherite, but there are also, of course, two other potential outcomes. The first outcome, which is the most risky for Johnson and indeed potentially the most damaging, is a Brexit fudge. Where might that leave him? Well, if the Prime Minister thinks that the deal isn't going to be pored over by lawyers, Brexiteer, Remainer and otherwise, as soon as it is published, obviously he's deluding himself, and it will only be a matter of time before the small print is pored over, torn apart, criticised. So any indifferent deal, any fudge deal that seems to be neither a good Brexit or a bad one, but somewhere in the middle, is going to be difficult to sell politically because it's going to be very easy to criticise, and it will attract criticism from both sides. So he could find himself in some horrific pincer movement like Theresa May was, of being attacked by Brexiteers and Remainers in his party. What about no deal? What we can all agree Boris Johnson has been very clear about is what he thinks Brexit means. His aims, as set out in the Tory party manifesto, are to deliver a clean break from Brussels. Although no deal will be spun by Remainers and the BBC and the CBI and the Twitterati and all of Johnson's main critics as a total failure of statescraft and a massive defeat, actually the Prime Minister could spin it in his favour, because he could say, I went to Brussels, we've been trying to negotiate with them since 2016, they have been completely intransigent, look how Michel Barnier has behaved, effectively saying no to everything that we have asked for. All we wanted was to be treated on equal terms to Canada, and this is how we have been received in response. So they've talked about deep and special partnerships, and actually they haven't treated us like a friend, they've treated us like an enemy. And in order to get the clean break Brexit that I promised you, the electorate, upon which you elected me with an 80-seat majority, the only Brexit deal that would do and that would meet those clear aims is a no deal. I had to walk away. And yes, he'll be criticised, but as far as the public's concerned, the public might turn around and say to Johnson, well, fair play. He's had his so-called up yours Delors moment, and he's come away and he's protected British sovereignty. And because we know how many people voted for Boris Johnson on the back of the slogan of getting Brexit done, that is a perfectly cogent and perhaps even sensible political strategy for him to adopt. So really, he's only got two choices, hasn't he? He's got good deal or no deal. Having promised that no deal is better than a bad deal, it would seem that the latter is politically completely impossible for him to pull off. He's facing the toughest test of his political career with this Brexit deal, because if it isn't good enough, he's in trouble. And it might be detrimental to the country economically, but politically it might be more favourable to him in the face of a bad deal to just walk away.